from different countries, inspected people were there to as an exchange program. It was a very beautiful exchange program that the inspections done by the US FDA people were witnessing by the European people, and the European people inspections were witnessing by the FDA people. So they can understand what are the differences in the approaches and what are the differences in the understanding of the subjects. Again, the drug which is tested is not used, and the which is used not tested. We know CAR-T cannot be observed by everyone and or by naked eye. It is universally correct and true. CAR-T cannot be tested in laboratory, but has to be built into the product. It is very sensitive. We have multi attributes of each materials, and every attribute has some significant value on the promise of your drug. You know, whatever the drug you are manufacturing, every dose has to deliver the promise which is guaranteed, which is supported by the clinical studies of innovator. And we have to create a bridge between innovator clinical studies and a drug you are manufacturing after 10 years of the innovator, and every dose has to perform in the same way as the innovator is committed. And while the attributes, while the supply lines are so flexible, that's the issue where you have to control the inspections, you have to control the process. The GMP intent resolves only around three things. One is consistency. Each time your drug should be consistent to each other. Every time, every batch, within batch, batch after batch, time after time, every place, every unit should be consistent, whether it is a 1 day life or whether it is a 3 years life, should be consistent in performance, should be consistent in delivery of active pharmaceutical ingredient inside the biological system. Your batch should not be mixed up within batch with other drugs, with any other materials during manufacturing, during packaging, during dispensing. There should be less than zero mix-up. I can say consistency should be zero, but I cannot say it will be zero. There will be some measurable even differences, but within permissible limit. But for mix-up, there should be less than zero. And the third intention of the GMP is contamination. Contamination or cross-contamination. If you contaminate any other particles or any other substances or any dirt or dust, it's a contamination. If some other active pharmaceutical ingredient from somewhere else, whether it is a air, whether it is an individual, whether it is a common surface area, whether it is a human being, it is a cross-contamination. And cross-contamination has some permissible limit. And the permissible limit you can assess, you can try from the navigation which is delivered by the ICH quality guidelines. That is 0.1% of the lowest dose in the maximum daily dose of higher strength. This is the rule of thumb. Quality, initially we started quality with testing. Everything will be testing, and if it is qualified, we understand it is a representative sample. It means your batch is quality. And afterward, before 21st century, we witnessed a lot of recall, lot of quality defect after testing. So then we understand that the quality should be designed inside. The deeper science to connect the cause and effect relationship, we were able to understand the quality by design approach. And after quality by design approach, we see some recalls, we see some defects. Now we are going to see metrics, how many lot you have accepted, how many lot you have rejected, how many tests you have performed, and how many tests go out of a specification, and how many out of a specifications upon investigation come back to the original position. And this is called the matrix approach. And maturity, how mature your system are, what is the culture of quality you have, whether you report mistakes, whether you enjoy mistakes, whether you celebrate mistakes. Can you differentiate between mistakes and error? What is error? What is the reason of errors? And everything define your maturity level, how mature your system are, how enough, how the system is strengthened to control the quality. If drug is manufactured in GMP environment. You are witnessing every drug which is manufactured in US or Europe, at least they are manufactured in GMP environment, what we believe. But we are witness that these drugs are subject to recalls. And we see from left to right, recalls, recalls, recalls. We see import alerts. Why it is so? It is sufficient for quality of something remains null. We cannot comply GMP 100%. We can keep ourselves adhere to GMP. And the intention of the regulator must also be to see the intent of adherence with the GMP instead of to see 2 + 2 = 4. He will have to see the attachment of the GMP. And this is the thin line where European Union and FDA has some differences, where FDA is broader, somewhere European Commission is broader, European Union is broader. But these differences are underway, and you can see harmonization word, harmonization, where US is used Z and European is used S. So we are harmonized as a regulatory authority, but with some beautiful differences. One is using S and one is using Z. Both has their logic, and logic is always respected. After GMP, we keep eye open for surveillance, and this is called quality surveillance. We have vigilance, we have complaint systems, we have recall systems. There are surveillance and vigilance, and this is a difference. Unluckily, in Pakistan, we are saying surveillance is equal to vigilance and vigilance is equal to surveillance. Both has different meaning, and both somewhere both are overlapping, but both has different identity and both has different reasons. A complaint system in Pakistan is very, very poor. We even don't think to file complaint, and if someone file complaint, we do not respect in this way. Country like US and Europe is respecting. Recalls is a very good phenomenon of the system. But again, in Pakistan, I'm witnessing, I just read 3 days before a recall advertisement, there was no reason why it is recall. What will be the impact of the recall? There was no reason. There was no explanation. What should be done by the people or the doctor if something happened? These 3 are the integral part of recall system. If we are going to PICS, if we are going to ICH, we have to qualify our internal systems up to the standards that is expected by the international authorities or international frameworks. Some is misconception. Here, I believe most of the participants are from Pakistan. देखिए मैं 2-3 जुमले उर्दू में सिर्फ कहूँगा.
Yes sir. सारे लोग पाकिस्तान से.
जी कि PICS को अंधाधन अगर गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान ने तस्लीम कर दिया, नईम साहब की डिस्कशन के लिए इसको रखूंगा. हमारी कुछ लिमिटेशंस हैं. We cannot manufacture drug up to the standard that is required by the US, that is required by the Europe. If we start, suppose हम ये करना शुरू करते हैं, बनाने में कामयाब हो जाए, तो हमें यकीन है कि आपकी 90% जो ड्रग्स हैं वो शेल्फ आउट हो जाएंगे. जो बकिया 10% ड्रग बचेंगी, उन 10% ड्रग्स को आवाम की रीच में वो नहीं जाएगा. तो हमें अपना पर्पस आइडेंटिफाई करना है. देखिए, व्हाट इज गुड एंड व्हाट इज बैड, व्हाट इज राइट एंड व्हाट इज रॉन्ग, व्हाट इज मीनिंगफुल एंड व्हाट इज मीनिंगलेस. We have to define very clearly what is good means morally good, ethically good, scientifically good, and what is bad, and where it is going, the corridor. What is right and what is wrong. If you ask me to keep ibuprofen with the paracetamol due to contamination, I will damn care about the Pakistan. Because the impact of this contamination will not harm enough that the impact of prednisolone with the antibiotic will cause. तो हमें अलग अलग करना पड़ेगा. Again, मैं ये अपने जो दोस्त हैं, जो कलीग्स हैं, आसिम भाई, इन लोग से भी जिक्र कर रहा हूँ कि आप अपनी ड्रग्स को क्लासिफाई करें. हमारे इनहेरेंट सिस्टम के अंदर डिसऑनेस्टी बहुत है, जिसको ओवरनाइट सही नहीं किया जा सकता. आपने देख लीजिए 2017 में हमने अप्लाई किया था PICS के लिए. PICS की हिस्ट्री देखिएगा, इतना लंबा टाइम किसी ने नहीं लिया. आज 2022 अभी वो आएंगे और हमें अंदाजा है कि कहाँ पर हमारे जो मसाइल मौजूद हैं। यूरोप और अमेरिका में वाज़ा फ़र्क है। इन यूरोप वो डिज़ाइन कर लेता है, 5 दिन का इंस्पेक्शन प्री अनाउंस्ड होता है, लोग क्वालिफाइड होता है।
और मैंने यहाँ देखा है जो फ्लोर पे होता है ना वो ट्रेनिंग देता है।
इन पाकिस्तान अभी तक हमने डिफाइन नहीं किया है। दूसरी बात है कि अमेरिका में डिफाइन नहीं, वो चले गए इंस्पेक्टर, वो 10 दिन लगाएंगे, 15 दिन लगाएंगे, 30 दिन लगाएंगे। तो हमें पाकिस्तान को समझना पड़ेगा इंस्पेक्शन प्रोसेस है वो क्या है। दूसरी बात है कि आप यूरोप और अमेरिका को देखिएगा डिफरेंसेस। यूरोप में एक नई स्ट्रेटजी उभर रही है, नई साहब इज मोर क्लोज विद यूरोप, क्योंकि वो इस वक्त यहाँ मौजूद है। बाकी के जो गूगल शुगल से हम पढ़ लेते हैं या जो जानने वाले दोस्त व्हाट्सएप से हमें शेयर कर लेते हैं कि वहाँ स्पेशलाइजेशन का दौर है। हो सकता है आने वाले दिनों में हो सकता है इट इज कन्फर्म्ड इनफ कि उनका जो स्पेशलिटी होगी इंस्पेक्टर की इन यूरोप, वो जो लोग मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कर रहे होंगे उनमें से लिए जाएंगे, थ्योरेटिकल इंस्पेक्टर्स नहीं लिए जाएंगे। बायोलॉजिकल ड्रग्स के लिए जाएंगे, बायोलॉजिकल के लिए, केमिकल ड्रग्स के लिए जाएंगे, केमिकल के लिए, स्टाइल के लिए जाएंगे, स्टाइल के लिए लोग। इन एफडीए इट इज नॉट सो, बट एफडीए और वो दोनों साइंटिफिकली इसको हार्मोनाइज कर रहे हैं और दोनों जो है वो अपना म्यूचुअल रिकग्निशन एग्रीमेंट पर हैं। तो पाकिस्तान को, मेरा जो परसेप्शन है कि पाकिस्तान को फौरी तौर पे अपनी दवाओं को डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा कि आपकी कौन सी दवाएं वो हैं जो टॉप फ्रंट लाइन पर हैं, जिनके साथ हम पीआईसीएस के अप्रूवल पर जाएं। आपने देखा, नहीं साहब ने बताया कि 50 मुल्क जो हैं वो पीआईसीएस के साथ अटैच हैं, लेकिन 54 अथॉरिटीज हैं। तो बकिया 4 कहाँ से आए? बकिया 4 उन मुल्क ममालिक के अंदर डिफरेंट अथॉरिटीज हैं। कहीं पे वेटरनरी ड्रग अलग है, ह्यूमन ड्रग अलग है, कहीं बायोलॉजिकल ड्रग अलग है, ह्यूमन ड्रग का वो केमिकल ड्रग का इंस्पेक्टरेट अलग है। तो इसी तरीके से इस वैक्यूम को एंजॉय करें, अपनी ड्रग को क्लासिफाई करें। पर्सनली माय रिकमेंडेशन, आप स्टेप बाय स्टेप चलें, अपने थ्रेट्स को जहन में रखिए। ये कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड बनता जा रहा है। ऐसा ना हो कल कोई ऐसा कानून हम खुद अपने ऊपर लागू कर लें और उस कानून के नतीजे में या उस ऑब्लिगेशन के नतीजे में हमारी दवाएं शॉर्ट होनी शुरू हो जाए और शॉर्ट को रोकने की कोशिश करें, तो इंटरनेशनल जो ऑब्लिगेशंस हैं वो हमें जो है वो मुश्किल में डाल दें, जिस तरह आपने देखा आजकल हम मुश्किल में डले हुए हैं। तो पीआईसीएस इतना देखिए, एक और बात ध्यान में रखिएगा, PICS is not only scientific organization, it's a political organization as well. यूक्रेन के ऊपर they have issued their press release, which is has clear meaning. फिर आप देखिए, अभी दुनिया की जो आधी आबादी है वो इंडिया पर, चाइना पर है। इंडिया और चाइना अभी तक PICS का मेंबर नहीं है, मगर मैं ये नहीं कहने जा रहा कि चाइना मेंबर नहीं बनना चाहता, चाइना मेंबर बनना चाहता है। आपको ध्यान में रखिएगा, सन 2000 में probably it was 90 or 2000, जब जब PICS वॉलंटरली उसने इनवाइट किया, इट वाज नवंबर और दिसंबर समवेयर, कि फर्स्ट जनवरी से वी विश टू सी यूएस ऑन बोर्ड, वी विश टू सी यूक्रेन ऑन बोर्ड। दोनों ममालिक को, यूक्रेन को और यूएस को उन्होंने इनवाइट किया। यूएस ने उस जमाने में, अगर लोगों को याद हो, एक चीज थी, उसका नाम था जो रॉ मटेरियल को अप्रूव किया करती थी अमेरिका, CDQM, सेंटर EDQM, Directorate for Quality Medicine, और FDA has a mutual recognition agreement with EMA या EDQM, तो उन्होंने उसको छोड़ा हुआ था। लेकिन अचानक जब वो गए तो डजन ऑफ द कंपनीज, डजन ऑफ द इंपोर्ट अलर्ट्स में लगा दिया कि GMP compliance is compromised while it was evaluated by the EDQM and European authorities. तो somewhere इस political pole मौजूद है, तो we should play our role with very care. हमें बहुत कॉपी करना चाहिए अपना पड़ोस जो है जिसने प्रोग्रेस किया है। आपकी जो भी टोटल बिजनेस दुनिया भर में जेनेरिक का है, उसमें जो सबसे ज्यादा जिसने प्रोग्रेस किया है वो है इंडिया। इंडिया has least interest in PICS. Just I'm not saying don't follow the quality standard. Please follow US standard. PICS standards उसके पीछे चला जाएगा। PICS की जो GMP के स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं वो इतने सारे मौजूदात हैं, वो नईम साहब भी अगर एक मौजू को उठाते हैं तो हमारा पूरा दिन लग जाएगा उस मौजू पर। सिर्फ वाटर को डिस्कस करना हो, सिर्फ रिव्यूज को डिस्कस करना हो, इंशाल्लाह अगर खलीफा साहब और ये मौके प्रोवाइड करते हैं तो we will share our knowledge, we will share our experience, we will share whatever we read, whatever we know, whatever we understand, कि ये इन डिफरेंट जो स्टैंडर्ड्स डेवलप किए गए हैं, गाइडलाइंस, उससे एक्सपेक्टेशंस क्या हैं। तो क्यों नहीं हम अपने इंस्पेक्टरेट को क्वालिफाई करें दुनिया के स्ट्रिंजेंट सिस्टम पे, चाहे वो FDA हो, चाहे PICS हो, चाहे यूरोपियन अथॉरिटी हो। PICS कहीं पर अगर रिलैक्स भी है, सपोज PICS यूरोपियन कमीशन के बहुत करीब है, यूरोपियन यूनियन के, और मैं देखता हूँ कि PICS रिलैक्स है इसमें कि जी हम 5 दिन का इंस्पेक्शन करेंगे, वो प्री अनाउंस इंस्पेक्शन है। US इज नॉट बाउंड्री नहीं करता। US ने ओपन रखा हुआ है, प्री अप्रूवल, पोस्ट अप्रूवल, फॉरकास्ट, उसने एक्सपर्ट बना लीजिए इंजीनियरिंग का, एक्सपर्ट बना लीजिए केमिस्ट्री का, एक्सपर्ट बना लीजिए माइक्रोबायोलॉजी का, ओपन फ्लेक्सिबल। तो व्हाई नॉट हम कंप्लाई करें यूएस स्टैंडर्ड को। तो PICS इज द बेस्ट टूल कि इसके साथ हम स्ट्रक्चर्ड हो जाएंगे। PICS बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट है, लेकिन याद रखिएगा गार्बेज इन गार्बेज आउट। अगर आपका प्रोडक्ट सही डेवलप नहीं हुआ है, प्रोडक्ट सही परफॉर्म नहीं करता है, सही रिलीज नहीं करता है, सही कमिटमेंट पूरे नहीं करता है, तो उस प्रोडक्ट को जो सही रिलीज नहीं कर रहा, सही बायो अवेलेबल नहीं है, सही थेरेपेटिक रिस्पांस नहीं दे रहा, बार बार एक जैसा नहीं बन रहा, ऐसी प्रोडक्ट को अगर आप कंसिस्टेंट बना भी दें, ऐसे प्रोडक्ट को आप जीपी कंप्लायंस भी दें, तो मीनिंगफुल नहीं होता। कभी मौका मिला तो मैं आपसे यूएस के फेलियर्स शेयर करूंगा कि वो कहाँ पे इंस्पेक्शन पे फेल हो गए। ये मुख्तलिफ सवाल थे जो जो मुझसे लोग करते थे, और उसको मैंने कंपाइल कर दिया था, और वो अवेलेबल है, आप पढ़ लीजिएगा कि डू द मेंबर ऑफ फार्मास्यूटिकल कंपनीज। अच्छा, कंपनीज का PICS से कोई ताल्लुक नहीं, क्योंकि PICS ICS का कंपनी से ताल्लुक है। वहां पर फार्मास्यूटिकल मैन्युफैक्चरर एसोसिएशन बैठी हुई है। यहाँ पर मैं गवर्नमेंट में था, अब मैं चाहूँ PICS वालों से बात करना, PICS मुझे अलाउ नहीं करेंगे, क्योंकि वो उनकी लिमिटेशंस है। गवर्नमेंट जिनको अप्रूव करेगी, जिनका नाम देगी, वही बात करेंगे। नो, PICS हैज नथिंग, दिस इज माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग व्हिच माइट नॉट ऑलवेज बी करेक्ट, बट मैंने बहुत केयर की है इसको जवाब देने में, बहुत जिम्मेदारी से जवाब दिया। अगर कोई गलती होगी जरूर आइडेंटिफाई कीजिएगा। आई विल रिस्पेक्ट योर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू एंड ओपिनियन। PICS has nothing to do with the pharmaceutical companies or manufacturer association. Go to the website of the PICS, किसी कंपनी का नाम नहीं है, whether it is Abbott or Zafa or Pfizer or GSK. It is limited to the regulatory authorities. सिर्फ regulatory authorities का नाम है इनके पास। ये थोड़ा सा स्लो चलता है, मैं जल्दी खत्म करूँ। PICS एक गुड स्ट्रेटजी फॉर ड्राइवर पाकिस्तान, मैंने आपसे डिस्कस कर लिया कि ये गुड स्ट्रेटजी नहीं है मेरी नजर में। If facility is inspected by World Health Organization, अच्छा ये बात ध्यान में रखिएगा, World Health Organization is not the regulatory body. WHO is not the regulatory body. WHO is intergovernmental organization, or you may call non-governmental organization. चूंकि लीगल बाइंडिंग है हमारे साथ, इसलिए इंटरगवर्नमेंटल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कहते हैं। और WHO का जो इंस्पेक्टरेट है वो बहुत लिमिटेड इंस्पेक्टरेट है। मैंने 2 साल उसके साथ WHO के साथ एसोसिएट रहा हूँ, उसके अंदर इनकी इंस्पेक्टरेट ऑब्जर्वेशंस के अंदर। तो WHO का जो ये नहीं कहने जा रहा कि वो लोग पढ़े लिखे नहीं है, वो मुझसे तो बहुत ज्यादा पढ़े लिखे हैं, लेकिन जो नॉलेज बैंक US और यूरोप का है उसके मुकाबले में बहुत कमजोर है WHO का नॉलेज बैंक, खासतौर पे GMP के ऊपर। ऑल्दो यूरोपियन नॉलेज बैंक वहाँ पे ट्रेन हो रहा है और वो उस तरह से नॉलेज जनरेट हो रहा है, लेकिन रियल टाइम नॉलेज जो WHO की है वो लिमिटेड है, क्योंकि उनके पास लिमिटेड मॉलिक्यूल्स हैं, लिमिटेड कंट्रीज हैं जहाँ पर डिस्कस कर रहा है। WHO इज इंटरगवर्नमेंटल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, सेम PICS is an intergovernmental organization, it's an intergovernmental club, whatever you may call it. Does PICS tell about the PICS approved facility? PICS की वेबसाइट पर PICS कभी नहीं कहेगा it is PICS approved facility. वो कहता है कि these are PICS member, this inspectorate जो है उनको हम कंसिडर करते हैं। ये जो इंस्पेक्टरेट हैं, ये जो काम करेंगे वो PICS के स्टैंडर्ड पे काम करेंगे। PICS इस बात की जिम्मेदारी जरूर लेता है कि हमारा जो स्टैंडर्ड है उसके अगेंस्ट ये कंपनी हमारी मेंबर है। वो रेट्रोस्कोपिक नहीं देगा, जब से उसने मेंबर किया है उससे लेकर जब तक उसको रिन्यूअल ना करे उस वक्त तक का वो लेता है PICS। If a PICS members issue, मुझे कुछ नजर नहीं आ रहा इसके से पहले, if any PICS member GMP सर्टिफिकेट इशू करता है वो फैसिलिटी को, तो दूसरे मुल्क इसको एक्सेप्ट कर लेगा। यूरोपियन कमीशन के अंदर इट इज यस, क्योंकि वहां पर म्यूचुअल रिकग्निशन एग्रीमेंट मौजूद है। यूरोपियन कमीशन का US FDA के साथ MRA मौजूद है विद सर्टेन इफ बट, उसके साथ अगर आप लोगों ने वो MRA पढ़ा हो। यूरोप एंड US हैज ए लॉन्ग हिस्ट्री ऑफ MRA, म्यूचुअल रिलायंस, मेमोरेंडम ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग एंड इंस्पेक्शंस वो मौजूद हैं, तो वो मौजूद है। हाँ, PICS एक क्लब है, उस क्लब में जब लोग मिलते हैं वो PICS प्रमोट इस बात को जरूर करता है कि अपने दरमियान आप म्यूचुअल रिकग्निशन एग्रीमेंट करें, ताकि PICS के जो मजे हैं वो कर सकें, आप रिड्यूस कर सकें अपने बर्डन्स को, आप एंजॉय कर सकें दूसरे की नॉलेज को। ये PICS जरूर चाहता है। This GMP certificate issued from PICS office Geneva, नहीं जी, PICS ऑफिस GMP सर्टिफिकेट इशू नहीं करता, ये बात सही नहीं है। If any finished drug product is pre-qualified by WHO after application, review and inspection of the manufacturing facility, Will the same finished drug product be considered approved in US and Europe for their market? मैं बहुत सच्चाई से कहूँ, WHO अप्रूव प्रोडक्ट को आप फ्री अमेरिका में दें कि हम फ्री दे रहे हैं आपकी आवाम को, वो उसकी मार्केट में नहीं रखा जाएगा। कितना महंगा है, कितना सस्ता है, इससे कोई कंसर्न नहीं। US FDA अपनी शेल्फ के ऊपर वही प्रोडक्ट रखेगा जिसका प्री मार्केट रिव्यू वो पूरा खुद कर ले, जिसका प्री मार्केट इंस्पेक्शन वो पूरा कर ले, या इंस्पेक्शन के ऊपर ट्रस्ट कर ले। इवन आप देखिए, कोविड का मामला आया और क्लोरोक्विन वाज द बायर कंपनी की क्लोरोक्विन थी। आप लोगों को, क्योंकि उसमें बैठा हूँ आपसे शेयर करने के लिए, पाकिस्तान में क्लोरोक्विन बनी थी, दुनिया में नहीं बनी थी। वो न्यूयॉर्क एयरपोर्ट से नहीं जा सकी, जबकि प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप ने उसका जिक्र किया था, FDA कमिश्नर के सामने जिक्र किया था। लेकिन मामला कहाँ पे आके अटका? मामला यहाँ पे आके अटका कि उस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटी को कभी इंस्पेक्ट नहीं किया गया है। विद ऑल ड्यू अपॉलजी एंड कंसर्न, जब उन्होंने इंस्पेक्शन रिपोर्ट्स उनकी उठाई कि भाई इस फैसिलिटी को कभी इंस्पेक्ट नहीं किया गया है, तो किसी और ने इंस्पेक्ट किया है, तो अनलकीली इंस्पेक्शन रिपोर्ट जो थी वो मल्टीपल पेजेस के ऊपर हमारी थी, मतलब मेरी थी। और आपने देखा होगा ट्विटर, वहाँ अमेरिका के ट्विटर अखबार ने भी इसको पब्लिश किया। इस बुनियाद पे वो दवा जो बहुत मुश्किल से पहुंची थी अमेरिका, जिसका प्रेसिडेंट ने अनाउंस किया था, अमेरिका के ताकतवर मुल्क के ताकतवर प्रेसिडेंट ने, वो न्यूयॉर्क के एयरपोर्ट से बाहर पब्लिक तक नहीं पहुंच सकी, वो इस्तेमाल नहीं की गई क्योंकि उसका GMP नहीं किया गया था। दिस इज द रेगुलेटरी लिमिटेशंस। Can a drug manufacturing facility have GMP certificate from any PICS member country be exported? All other is very simple. No. जहाँ पे MRA है, सिर्फ GMP is one thing. Other thing is the approval of your dossier. डोजियर को भी अप्रूव करना पड़ेगा। आपका देख लीजिए, आपका ईरान पड़ोस का मुल्क है, वो GMP सर्टिफाइड है, क्वालिफाइड है, वो PICS का मेंबर है, तो ईरान की ड्रग नहीं जा सकती। आपका कोरिया PICS का मेंबर है, आपका लैटविया मेंबर है, आपका इस्टोनिया मेंबर्स है। तो मेंबर GMP कंप्लायंस के हैं। GMP कंप्लायंस इज गुड कि ये बिस्किट में भी जाए, टॉफियों में भी जाए, या कैंडीज में भी जाए। GMP सर्टिफिकेट अकेला जो है वो नहीं कहता कि आप इस ड्रग को ले लें। GMP इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। मेरी पर्सनल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से GMP रेगुलेटरी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू में ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है, लेकिन रिव्यू के लोग कहते हैं कि वी आर द हार्ट ऑफ रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटी, एंड मैं समझता हूँ कि हार्ट से ज्यादा जो है वो आर्म्स का इंपॉर्टेंट है। यहाँ पर जहाँ पे काम करना है, तो GMP इज मच मोर इंपॉर्टेंट देन द रिव्यू। This is my personal understanding. PICS, what should be the concern? We have discussed a lot. Just last slide. Factory mix-up returns up to 5 million vaccine dose from Johnson Johnson. ये 2021 है. US FDA and European Medicine Agency के पास mutual recognition agreement है, mutual reliance strategy है, similar tools हैं. कंपनी एस्ट्राजेनेका यूरोपियन ओरिजिन कंपनी है, जॉनसन जॉनसन अमेरिकन ओरिजिन कंपनी है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद जहां सिर्फ वैक्सीन बन रही थी, सिंगल कोविड वैक्सीन बन रही थी, मिक्सअप हो गया। क्या FDA विजिलेंट नहीं थी? क्या FDA ने जो क्वालिफाई किया था, जिस बुनियाद पे भी क्वालिफाई किया था, वर्चुअली किया हो, फिजिकली ऑडिट किया हो, सिस्टम को समझने पढ़ने के बाद किया हो, वो कितनी कमजोर थी, वो इससे आप देख सकते हैं कि GMP कंप्लायंस है सम इनहेरेंट इशू। एक ही प्रोडक्ट बन रही थी, वहां पे मिक्सअप हो गया, इंग्रेडिएंट का मिक्सअप हो गया, और आप जानते हैं फास्फो जो उसके ऊपर, मैं उस पर डिटेल में क्या पढ़ूं, जो रिएक्शंस कॉज हो रहे थे, उसकी वजह जो थी वो इनएक्टिव इंग्रेडिएंट की वजह थी, जो मिक्सअप हो चुका था। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू हु लिसन अस, और खासतौर पे नईम साहब, खलीफा साहब, एवरी पार्टिसिपेंट, आप सबका बहुत शुक्रिया। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Beth sir. It was wonderful knowledge sharing, and I think people will have question, but as we are running a little bit behind schedule, so I'll hold the questions of the participant for the moment. And Ghazampar Sahab, if we can put through you, Rafael, whatever knowledge he want to share, and at the end we can have the question and answer session. So over to you.
Thank you, Naeem Saab. Thank you, Dr. Baid, for enlightening us with your views on this subject, which were very important. Just to sum up few points that were perhaps meant for the local people, and you were doing it in the local in Urdu language, but just to keep our other participants aware of what you were talking about. I think in the local language, what Dr. Baid talked about was that PICS is definitely a quality related organization, a quality guideline related organization, a manufacturing guideline related organization, but also it is a it has a political angle to it. So we must be aware what to follow and what not to follow. And then we were talking about instances where we saw what happened in COVID times when some drugs were, sent over, but because they were not allowed as per the US FDA guidelines, were not allowed to enter the US, let's say, territories. So before I request Mr. Rafael Bio to um, start, he's a global consultancy director with Telstar, which is a Spanish company, but originating from Spain, but is a global company. Rafael is well known in Pakistan. He is coming in the last, I think, 10 years to Pakistan on various occasions. Of course, before COVID, this was done in person, and he has spoken on various occasions. He's a pharmacist by education. Apart from his role in Telstar, before he has been on the other side of the table, which means on the pharmaceutical industry as well. So over to you, Rafael, if you can also introduce yourself and Telstar, and I thank you for your time and coming over.
Thank you. Thank you, Gastanfar and Morgan, for inviting me, and thank you to the attendants for being there. As Gastanfar has said, I've been working more than 10 years in the pharmaceutical market, in a Spanish company and then in a multinational. And I moved to the other side of the table, to Telstar, where I've been more than 20 years now, and always in the GMP side, helping clients to introduce GMP. I also thank Mr. Naim for the introduction. I think it was very interesting, the introduction about PICS and how it was born and so on. I will make a quick review on that. And Dr. Obaid Ali and his presentation, I couldn't follow 100%, but what I understood is more or less aligned with what I want to share with you. So let me share with you the presentation. Let's see if we can see. Okay. So when Gastanfar suggested talking about PICS and the meaning and thanks to the movement on DRAP to join, well, I wanted to review quickly what is that, what is PICS, what is the meaning, members, what are the GMPs. Mr. Naim explained a little bit about that. I will get a little bit more into that. And then I thought, okay, if I was a company in Pakistan, what I would like to know. And I think it could be interesting knowing what to do to move ahead and to get into compliance with that. Okay, so we are obviously talking, Dr. Obaid Ali explained a lot about that. We are working in a regulated market, okay? We are always talking about GMP, good manufacturing practices. One quick point that I think was very clear also in Dr. Obaid Ali presentation, we have to differentiate very much about product and about plants. When we talk about products, you may have a product that is approved in the United States, and you may not have a plant to produce in the United States. Your plant can be in Europe, in Africa, in Pakistan. I mean, it's independent. And the product is approved because it has the appropriate characteristics and is produced in a plant where American GMP, US FDA GMP are compliant. But it is approved the product, not the plant. And then you can have a plant that is approved to produce wherever you want, in following the GMPs for whatever country, and not having a product itself there. So this differentiation between products and plants is important. When we are talking out about GMP, we are mainly talking about the plant, where you produce the products. Okay, not about the product itself, we are talking about the plants. Okay, so when we talk about GMP, about what our plants, our manufacturing sites, our control sites, warehouses should be complying, you have the European Medicines Agency, okay, And the European Medicines Agency, it's a central organization. It was based in London, now moved to Amsterdam. We have also local European agencies. In Spain, we have the Agencia Española de Medicamento y Producto Sanitario, which is the inspectors in Spain, on behalf of the European Medicines Agency. We are not having in European country, in Spain, anyone from France, anyone from Italy, anyone from another European country coming to audit our plants. We get the Spanish agency auditing the plants. And that's because of the mutual recognition, also explained by Dr. Obaid Ali. I'll get into that in a second. We have someone that until a few years ago was also part of the European Medicines Agency, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, MHRA, which are the UK inspectors. Now, because of Brexit, they are no longer belonging to the European Medicines Agency. They have been put apart, but also very important regulatory body. Of course, it was mentioned FDA, the American FDA with the old logo or the new one, taking care of drugs, but also food for US patients, always taking care of them. We have the Pharmaceuticals and Medicinal Device Agency of Japan, ACH, also named by Dr. Obaid Ali, where why I'm showing this in principle. ACH, International Conference for Harmonization, was born with the impulse from Europe, America, and Japan. And it is a very, very important movement because if you follow ICH requests, you will be complying with the three main pharmaceutical prescriptors in the world. So before that, you should do something for Europe, something for Japan, something for America. Now, if you follow ICH conditions, you are complying with the three, which is also important. As mentioned by Dr. Obaid Ali, ICH has nothing to do with GMP. They are not related to GMP. Even there is a small point on that, which is the API production. The ICH started with an agreement of the three areas to develop what should be complied by the API, the active ingredients, and this has become law in Europe and in other countries. So that's to say that ICH was pushing to get this kind of regulation. Also, you have Brazilian people, Anvisa, okay, that have their own regulatory body, the Chinese with their Chinese FDA, Saudi Arabia, and of course, what we are we have DRAP in Pakistan, and of course, what we are talking about, PICS. And what is that? Well, PICS is Pharmaceutical Inspection Convention, because it was born in the 70s like that, and afterwards was moved to Pharmaceutical Cooperation Scheme when it was enlarged. It started in Europe in the 70s, as I said, and was little by little growing. And also mentioned by Dr. Obaid Ali, but it's very important, it's not a club, it's not an association made of pharmaceutical companies, made of anybody. It's made only of inspectors. It's only regulatory bodies that are together over there to agree on what to do. Today, as mentioned, the PICS has 54 members. The last one is Brazil to join. And the meaning on that of what is joining PICS is that the whole country must update, must move to that, because the regulators move to that. Let me tell you that we are talking about Europe, but in Brazil...
Rafael, just give me a
please.
second, please. Mr. Mahfouz, can you please shut down your video? Can you just switch off your camera from the... Sorry, Rafael, for this introduction.
No, it's okay, no problem. Okay, so one of the initial steps is that when you join this club, the PICS club, the regulatory authorities have to move ahead, have to learn how to work on that. And I'll show you what this means, because once the regulatory authorities go into PICS, the whole country must follow. And we'll see in a minute what I mean with that. Let me give you a quick example on that. As I said, from the original 53 members, now we have Brazil, the 54th. So in Brazil, the authorities there have pushed the whole country, and something that
I'm sorry, once again, a request that please switch off your microphones and also your videos. Mr. Mahfouz, still we can see your, if you can quickly go, and perhaps if you like, I can guide you right now. If you see on your right, top right, there's a leave button by the red, then there's share, then there's mic, and then there's a camera. So you just put mic and camera off. I'm sorry, Rafael.
okay.
Please.
I stopped sharing, it seems. Let me go back. Okay, thank you for warning me. Okay, as I was saying, from the 50, we were talking about the last member to join, which is Brazil. The inspectors from Brazil got to several meetings to learn what to do and how to do, and the whole country had to move ahead. And we have an office in Brazil, and we have seen that we have been requested to develop everything related to ICH Q9, which is the risk assessment, because this was not requested by Anvisa in Brazil, and now because of PICS requesting that, all the companies had to move and start doing the risk assessment. Let me go, as I said, we started in Europe, okay, and the European Commission started with that. Now, obviously, UK it's out of this, and this doesn't mean that the countries are not having similar regulation. It was also mentioned by Dr. Obeid Ali, and this is important to mention. When you go, why if you are in Spain are not getting an inspection from France or from Portugal? This is because first, we all belong to the same area, which is PICS. We are having the same or similar regulation, which is also important, but also the authorities from Spain, health authorities from France, and health authorities from Portugal have what we call mutual recognition agreement. This means that when an inspector from Spain inspects a pharmaceutical company in Spain, this report is recognized by France, by Portugal, and by the other countries. This mutual recognition agreement is a very useful tool, because this means you don't have to be audited by every single country that you can see here in Europe. Only one auditor, which is normally the local auditor, it's enough to cover the whole European audits. And the same is applied to many other PICS members. So why I said that it's important that we have common rules. Okay, let me go quickly to that. We are talking about different, I will share with you the presentation. We are talking about different GMPs. Of course, we have, the one from Europe, the ones from PICS, and the ones from FDA as example. Let me go quickly into that. I want to share with you what is PICS. It was mentioned by Dr. Naim that the website was very, very useful. Okay, this is the website of the PICS, and in the presentation you will have the link where you are seeing what is here. If you get into publications, what we have here is obviously some aid memoir, some help for inspectors. Remember, we are talking about an inspectors association. So it's telling you how to do the quality risk management and implementation, how to audit, how to inspect this point, how to inspect the clinical trials, how to inspect biotech facilities. But obviously, if we are smart enough, we will recognize that if you know what an inspector is going to be inspecting, it's very easy that you get prepared for your own inspection by following this aid memoir. So that's to say this, I recommend to you getting into this web page and seeing this type of documents that are really helpful, okay, are telling you how to get prepared. And the point that I wanted to show is the GMP guide. If we get into here, we have the regulation that shall be followed by any PIC country. So when we get into here, you have different documents, but there are three main things important to mention. We have here the Part 1 basic requirement for medicinal products. We have the Part 2, which is for APIs, for pharmaceutical ingredients. And you have also linked to the Part 1, the annexes. Let me get quickly into the annexes, just to give you an example. We don't have time to review the whole thing, but at least I will give you an idea on that. If we get into annexes of this document, of the PIC scheme, what we'll see here, okay, guide to good annexes. When you come into here, you are having, surprisingly, well, I wouldn't say surprisingly, one annex which is called Annex 1, Manufacture of Sterile Medicinal Products. I'm sure many of the attendants will remind for them something, this Annex 1 on sterile production. Yes, this is very similar. I would say it is the same that you will find in the European regulation. Let me go now to the European regulation for a second. Okay, you have Udralex. Also, you have Part 1, basic medicinal products. You have Part 2 for the active substances. And we have as well annexes. And you see, Annex 1, manufacture of sterile medicinal products. And when you click here and you get to see the regulation, you have here a document saying everything about the production of sterile products. Let me go back for a second to PICs. If you see here, principle, general, clean room and clean room device classification, monitoring. Let's go and see what the Europeans said. You come here and they talk about principle. They talk about clean room and clean room air device classification. You have here the classification of, let me make it larger, okay, the classification of different rooms. This is Europe. Let's go back to PICs and let's move to the Annex 1, okay. You see the classification, also make it larger, addressed in operation. This is the PICs, this is the European. Oh, exactly the same. You see, it's exactly the same. So why I'm pointing out this aspect? Because if you are already following what we normally call international standards, because we talk about PICs, and let me go back to the publication. You see, if you follow already European regulation, you are already following PICs regulation. It is not the same if we go to FDA, and let me show you for a second FDA CGMPs. The way they are developed is different, okay? So if you come to good manufacturing practices of FDA, the current good manufacturing practices of FDA, you see that this document has nothing to do in the way it is done on the normal, on the way it is done in Europe. So PICs, remember, was born in Europe, and that's why the GMPs are very, very alike. I would say they are the same. Maybe you can find a small difference, but in fact, they are very much the same. So going back to the presentation, it is here, okay. You have this aid memoir, which is nice to see. If you have time, please have a look. You have, as I said, you have here the link in the presentation, and I can share with you without problems. So these publications we have in PICs are the same as we have in Europe. And we have then FDA, which is a bit different. But what is the meaning on that? Well, we have to adapt ourselves when we get into PICs, when Pakistan gets into PICs. If the country wants to comply with PIC standards, and you have seen that we are talking always about GMP for PICs, This means you will be complying with European GMPs. Is there a different way to work? No, it's not a different way. If you want to be part of PICS, you must comply with PICS GMP, which means you must comply with European GMP. As Dr. Obaid said, this is a good point ahead. The country cannot be only focused on internal market. There is a whole market outside, and this should be also covered. What is the meaning of impact and transformation? Having talked a little bit about the scenario, what to do? Of course, when you go to the doctor, the first thing that you shall do is, okay, gap assessment. You should know what is wrong with you. If you don't go and do an evaluation, it's impossible to go for a relief. You cannot prescribe a treatment. So let's do an assessment, and how to do this assessment is something that, well, I'll give you some hints on that. Obviously, you have a QA system. We are manufacturing under a QA system our products, so we shall evaluate the system, and of course, we shall evaluate the facility. And to evaluate the facility, we have to split into 3 parts. You have equipment. If we have a very nice facility, but with equipment that is very old and not properly performing, we will have a problem sooner or later. Utilities, you know that water quality, air quality are fundamental in the production of pharmaceuticals, and of course, premises. And when I talk about premises, I'm talking more about flows, about also mentioned by Dr. Obaid Ali, avoiding cross-contamination. And the best way to avoid cross-contamination is having a proper design. If you have a good design, you will not have problems in the cross-contamination. Today, in the new version of Annex 1 that is going to come into force very soon, it is requested that for B areas, for the area where you are producing the product, the flow, the changing room in and out are differentiated. It's impossible with a different way in and out to have contamination from the people getting in and the people getting out. Why? Because you have different flows, different rooms. So it's impossible. That means that with a good design, you are helping everyone to comply with that. Once you have an assessment of the premises, you know if the flows, if the design is correct, the utilities and the equipment, plus the QA system evaluation, you may develop a corrective action plan. Okay, and actions, everything that needs to be done. I would advise starting with the premises if need to be changed, and continue with the other points. And once you have these 3 parts completely corrected, then move to the QA system, which is something that will cover everything. So with the capital development, you may need some support. You, of course, will need follow-up. You will need training. Okay, you need a facility, but remember, at the end of the day, what we have is people performing the activities. If people are not performing the right way, it doesn't matter how good you have the rest. Everything must be done under proper training with people with the right mindset to comply with the new GMPs that will come into force with the PICS. And of course, once we have here, we will have a GMP fully compliant facility. So I would like to have some points, some moments to have questions. So let me just give you an example on how this is an example of something we have done for an aseptic plant, but is to give you. We have evaluated a plan, and we have seen that the gowning areas had the same way in and out, that there was an open laminar flow protection in a critical area. You say, this is right. No, this is not right with the current state of the art. If possible, you should be using isolator or wraps to avoid people being there. There was an autoclave with a technical area that was accessed from C grade area, which is not the best thing, and the finishings were not updated. So the corrective action in the 3 first points were a new layout, using isolator and addressing the issues. And the last one, the new area will have the updated materials. When talking about utilities, purified water, water for injection, and pure steam, in this case, new utilities had to be introduced because the old ones were not complying and without enough capacity. And when talking about machines, we realized that there was a vial manual washing and sterilization, which is something that is so not recommended at all to have manual operations in washing and sterilization. This means manipulation of vials, and we were trying to avoid that. Also, the filling machine was not automated, was manual or semi-manual. The lyophilizer in this case was manually loaded, also something that is requested to be avoided.
Rafael, you have gone mute somehow.
Muted me. Okay, let me continue. I guess now it's okay. Good. As I said, these are the machine evaluation, and we have realized that the equipment should be automated, so avoiding human intervention, and this is something to put into place. And also the capping machines should be properly segregated. This is something also requested. And last but not least, once you have all the three initial parts covered, the quality assurance system was reviewed with the new criteria, and some SOPs had to be updated, some practices, and some new documents had to be developed, like the CCS, the Control Contamination Strategy, and some others. So you see that this is an easy example. Of course, you may have more points, you may have to develop, but without a proper assessment, it's impossible to develop a CAPA, and without a CAPA, you don't know what to do. Okay, so you should move ahead in an orderly way and in an organized way. Just let me summarize where we are. The summary is PIC standards are international standards, and as said, if Pakistan joins PICs, the whole country and the pharmaceutical industry will have to move ahead, because you will have to comply with such standards. Okay, not only regulators, not only inspectors, but also the pharmaceutical industry there. In Spain, we passed through this process when getting into European Union, and was a nice and very challenging process. But at the same time, some industries were not prepared for that, and they had either to close or to get adapted. To get adapted means that if you are producing today one aseptic product, millions of tablets, and one cream, very likely your facility will be prepared for tablets, but you are not going to be prepared for the sterile or for the creams. So it's better to have these products produced outside with someone specialized on that. Okay, well, something for you to do. Depending on the starting point, as we have seen, the development may require high investments in time and resources, and this is also important. If you are already complying with European GMPs, you are already there. You will not have to do anything. You are already in the level that you must comply. If your facility has been inspected either by FDA or by European inspectors and you comply, you are there. If you are only complying with local standards and also very close to not complying, of course, you will have to do more investments on that. Everything will depend on the starting point. Assessment needs to be done. As said, CAPA development can be done immediately to evaluate the strategic steps. You must decide what you must be producing, how to adapt your facility to produce that in a efficient and also trying to be as much as possible aligned with the regulations and with the requirements. It's positive. You have to take this into positive, because this movement will allow Pakistani industry to get into the international markets with a recognition, not as we are seeing now that you may have some problem. You are now going to be part of this organization, and this is also very positive. Okay, I don't know if you have questions. We'll have some minutes for these questions now. I hope.
Working document सही है. उसके बाद जो मैंने भेजा ना उसको आप वो कर दें.
Yes.
Dear participants, please, as of even now, turn off your mic. We will give opportunity. Rafael, it was a wonderful, actually, in terms of starting from the very beginning. You make people aware of this website, and then thanks. You build the relationship as well, like how EU guidelines correlate with PIC's guidelines. So wonderful. This is the time to open up for question and answer session, and please follow one rule that we will give opportunity for almost all of the questions, inshallah, but it should be one by one. So let's go for the first question. Unfortunately, nobody in the meeting chat, to my knowledge, because I am reviewing it, have asked specific questions. So directly you can turn on your mic and ask the question. So over to the participant. If they have any question from Dr. Ubaid Ali, Rafael Baz, and myself, please, over to you guys.
Okay, Shamaila, this will be shared, the presentation and the recording, definitely. You can give your email. What I'll do is at the end of the session, I will, okay, there's a question from Maria. Does PICS do GMP audit for medical devices?
To whom? Who should be replying to that?
Rafael, it's a request to you to please.
Okay. Well, in fact, I think Dr. Ubaid Ali and already said that PICS is not auditing. Okay. What we see is that the local authorities are inspecting. PICS has not got a body of inspectors. So depending on the country you want to sell your medical device, you will be getting an inspection from this organization. And in fact, as far as I know, but maybe Dr. Ubaid Ali may explain it better, medical devices are not included in the PICS organization. We are talking about medicines, pharmaceutical products, and also animal products, veterinary products. But as far as I know, no medical device that go under other regulation. I don't know if Mr. Naeem or Dr. Ubaid Ali can explain a little bit more on that.
Dr. Saab, would you like to say something, or?
It is correct. Whatever Rafael said is correct. If a regulatory authority has scope to conduct medical device inspections, and the regulatory authority is a member of PICS, it doesn't mean that they are complying the PICS standard, because PICS doesn't issue the standards for the medical devices till date.
Yeah. So their website and all the guidelines which are even shown by the access has been shown by Rafael Baz. So they are relevant to human medicine and veterinary medicine. So few of the products manufactured by some of the facilities as drugs, and PICS inspected them, and they, in some part of the world, they are classified as medical devices, is a different story. But they only in their ambit, in their umbrella, it's just human pharmaceutical products and veterinary pharmaceutical products. So next question, please.
Mr. Abid Rafiq had a question. Should I ask, or Naeem Saab, you would like to put it up? I think Dr. Ubaid should be the right person to answer this. That is there any timelines for PICS implementation in Pakistan?
So I was unable to actually see it, but yes, Dr.
No
Saab,
problem.
and then I can.
Thank you very much. If Pakistan qualifies PICS as a member, there is zero timeline now. If Pakistan qualifies, you have to qualify the standards which is expected by the government of Pakistan, and Pakistan is obeying the standards that is defined by the PICS.
And when do you see this visit happening, sir?
So I think I can add into this. So for Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan to be PICS itself as a regulatory body, it is going to take some time. And we are talking about if everything goes well and DRAP really keep this project in focus and got all the support which they require from all the stakeholders, then we are talking about 6 plus years at minimum. So first, regulatory body itself have to be PICS. But in parallel, of course, they are governing. Their biggest stakeholders are manufacturers. Majority of their stakeholders, of course, are pharmaceutical manufacturer or veterinary manufacturer. So they by themselves cannot just uplift themselves while they are implementing system. They need to upgrade their stakeholders as well. So one of the example, I can answer this question with one example. So the PICS guideline in their sterile product manufacturing, where the filling is happening, is categorically saying that you should monitor the non-viable particles online. So this is one of the requirement. So if you look at the current manufacturing setup in Pakistan, for example, hardly very few manufacturers have that capability. So to build this capability, of course, DRAP need to come up with guidelines, and then, of course, have some timeline given to the manufacturers. So they, it is not going to be pick and parcel. They need to be PICS. DRAP need to fully adopt those guidelines and be compliant themselves as a regulatory body. But the issue is going to be, does the stakeholders implement those things or not? Otherwise, they will, of course, if DRAP is PICS and few of the manufacturers are unable to follow those guidelines, this cannot go along. So DRAP can give them some, as happen in the world, some buffer times. Could be in, of course, it will be in multiple years. So it will take some time. So the person asking was question, okay, when DRAP gonna get it? So it is going to take some time, and we are talking about a number of years. We are talking about 5, 6, 7 years. As at the moment, we are almost, at the very, very beginning. DRAP was pre-applicant 3 years back, and they are 2.5, 3 years back, and they are back to one stage behind to the pre-applicant. Now, if you look at the website very easily, if you go to the accession, and on the left side, you will see pre-applicant and farmer pre-applicant. We, as a drug regulatory body, are in farmer pre-applicants. So you need to cover some ground in terms of attending their meeting, in terms of engaging with them, in terms of getting to the gap assessment of the regulatory body before you being stay in the pre-applicant status, and then move the journey along. If Dr. Ubaid want to add something into it, so that's the answer.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just for information, 18 September. Sorry, Rafael. I'm talking about it in Urdu because it is difficult and hard sentence. 18 September को 2017 DRAP ने apply किया था PICS को, and it was March 2021 when हमारा जो application है वो turn down कर दी. और turn down करने का मतलब ये it is set aside, और DRAP उसी वक्त applicable होगी, eligible होगी जब companies capable हो. DRAP ने लेटर्स इशू कर दिए कि हम PICS के स्टैंडर्ड को क्वालिफाई करना चाहते हैं, तो लिहाजा कंपनी के पास यही टाइम है कि क्वालिफाई करवाएं, अपने आप को स्टैंडर्ड डेवलप करें. तो DRAP के पास कोई रास्ता नहीं बचा सिवाय इसके कि वो PICS के स्टैंडर्ड्स को क्वालिफाई करवाएं. That's the issue. So if the company is not eligible to qualify PICS standard, DRAP will not be eligible to qualify PICS membership.
Okay, let me just add something to what Mr. Naim said, because there's also a question. The possibility to use a checklist to know where you are. And also another question was about harmonization. First, Dr. Naim already explained that European and PICS GMPs are harmonized completely. As also as an example, where the new Annex 1 talking about sterile production, that is European regulation, currently is being reviewed by all PICS members, the inspectors of the PICS members, just to confirm they agree with that. Once getting into force, of course, it will be a regulation that will be applicable both in Europe and in PICS countries, because as we have seen, GMP are the same. There's no difference. If you read point by point European regulations and you read PICS GMPs, they are the same. Another point important, you were asking about, is there any checklist to be able to comply? Let me share again with you my screen just for a second, and let me go back to the GMP, sorry, the PICS website. When you come into here, you see that there are publications, all publications. If you want to know what to do in a QC laboratory, okay, this is what the inspections should be of a quality control laboratory, okay? Inspection of pharmaceutical quality control laboratories. As I said, if you read it, you come here and you will see, let me go down, okay, general information, but you are seeing here, let me make it a little bit larger, what are the questions an inspector will ask in your laboratory? So, talking about suppliers' quality, they are saying, okay, is there a policy for suppliers' quality assessment defined? Audit qualification evaluation is made of these suppliers. This is the point of the PICS where this is stated. Talking about self-inspection of the quality control laboratory, how and by whom are performed, how are they reported, how are corrective measures implemented, schedule available, and it's there too. So you see, this is a real checklist, this aid memoir that I talk about, and you have here a lot of information, very useful information. So premises, location of the QC labs. Are QC labs separated from production areas? You may read that, and as I said, this is public. You can see it here. When looking at the PICS, you come to publications, and here you have all this aid memoir that about utilities, about packaging, about, so you have that. Just to say that, of course, there is this type of checklist that is very useful, and this is very helpful to know where you are if you want to do it on your own.
Okay, thank you, Rafael. Dr. Obaid, there is a question. There are two questions. So one belongs to you as well, or might be we both can answer. So does DRAP planning to incentivize the early PICS adopters? This is a question from the CFO of Firosans. So if you can take this question, please.
I'm unaware about the formal incentive any DRAP is offering, but I know well since last 20 years, flexibility in the enforcement are offered for those who are complying best than others.
Okay. Just addition to
Naim, you're on mute or we can't hear you. Let me take up, there are, I don't know, Naim is here or we.
So I'm back, I think. Now you guys are able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. The second question is, what could be the ideal roadmap for a facility who want to, implement PICS guideline and eventually go for PICS inspection? So, Rafael, if you can put some light on it.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Naim. Yes, I said you must start with an evaluation I call it gap assessment, knowing where you are. And I would recommend starting with the facility itself, watching about flows to see what is there. Sorry, before that even, I would recommend to you to see which products you should be producing. As I said, if you are only producing one tablet in an sterile production site and the rest is sterile production, you will be prepared for sterile production, but